This is the fifth video in the series of preparing a fursuit head base for patterning with Pandafold. So the goal of this video is going to be to figure out how to combine this all into something for patterning and reduce the geometry. I have spent a lot of time on trying to figure out a good workflow for this. I think I'm there. Uh, let's find out. All right, so why are we doing this? Well, if we look at this, it says there are 2.3 million triangles on the current view and 1.7 on the current object. Pandafold does not like stuff with over about 500,000 triangles. This is far too many. If we tried using this with Pandafold, it might work, but it's going to be slow and inefficient, and it's probably going to crash a lot. And I just haven't optimized Pandafold for that yet. It's just a lot of software development work to even get where it's at right now. So let's see if we can figure this out. I have a plan here that's kind of insane, but we'll roll with it anyways. Okay, so let's turn off the neck and let me show you the primary problem we're struggling with. Well, the two problems. The first one is how thin this head base is. It is very thin, so if we try voxelizing it, we cannot do that because we will get holes in it. So you can see all the holes here, and that's because it's too thin. So what we're going to do is we're just going to try to fill in. I really do not want this tool dialog box right now. Let's undo that. And what we're going to do is cover up that internal geometry. So when I try voxelizing this, I have to go to 8 million triangles before I can keep the shape of it and not have holes in it. The alternative is I can, I don't want that. I want build up. Here we go. So what I'm going to do is cover anything on the inside that I want to not have to think about as we're doing this. So I'm just kind of thickening up the inside of this, and I don't care what it looks like because we're going to fill it solid. That is our end goal with this, is to fill this solid and make all of this internal geometry that we don't care about go away. But to do that, the exterior of this head base needs to be thick enough where I don't have to worry about it not working well with the Boolean tools in 3DCoat. This is like my 7th or 8th attempt at this, and this is what I've learned trying to do this. Okay. So I'm leaving the hinge area because I want to be able to leave that accessible. Probably want this brush to be smaller. And I need to avoid interacting with the edges of this. So as long as I don't interact with the edge of the eyes or the nostrils or the mouth, then the head base will maintain its exterior shape. If I were to make the mistake of like going over, I'll do that real quick. So you can see immediately it's modified the outside shape, which is what we're trying to avoid. I could try using the freeze functionality to do that, but it's just too difficult to get it lined up perfectly on that edge. I spent a lot of time trying that as an initial approach. So we're just going to go in here and do this instead. All right, so now we have this kind of done here. I think I need to make sure that these holes in the front here are filled in. The most ideal way to do this, by the way, would be just to ask the person who created the head base for the raw sculpt of this. I imagine as Pandafold hopefully becomes more popular, that fursuit makers are releasing their files for use explicitly with Pandafold as something ready to pattern. That's the dream world I live in. But there are many dream worlds that I live in that never get realized. So, okay, so this is pretty good. So that is now, who knew, who would know that this would look so ugly on the inside or beautiful? It depends, I guess, on your perspective. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm just going to try to take out some of that geometry from the holes here because I really don't care about it. And it's just extra geometry that it's likely to introduce issues. And I say that it's likely to introduce issues because I have been having Boolean merge issues trying to get this done. So I actually am going to use a different tool here, the fill tool, because I don't really care what it looks like. I just want the geometry gone. And I guess one thing you may be asking is why I haven't been doing all these videos in Blender. I am not that strong with Blender. I prefer 3D Coat over Blender, but they're very different applications with very different pluses and minuses. This just happens to be the application that I know really well for doing this kind of work. Um, so instead of 3D printing my head bases, I actually cast them all out of foam. And 3D Coat is the program I use to make all the molds. So I just have a bunch of Python. It has an API that you can use to do scripting, and I've just written a bunch of scripts in there to do this. Getting there, getting there. We might actually be able to voxelize it after this with some level of success. We're going to find out because I'm going to try a few things to see what we can do to reduce the complexity of this mesh so that when we do Boolean operations, they're not as as problematic. So the reason why the Boolean operations are problematic is imagine you're trying to merge two meshes. Um, that's it's probably n squared or worse, meaning that you take the number of triangles from one mesh in and call that n, and then you take the number of triangles from the other mesh, and it's exceedingly complex because you have to potentially do a lot of comparisons. Now, don't get me wrong, the algorithms have been more optimized than that, so they're probably using like some way to figure out what triangles are likely to intersect with what. This is an experience I'm having trying to use the smooth tool there. So this is a point where if you're in like Nomad Sculpt and you start to see these kind of geometry issues where you can't recover, this is partially because at some point you can mess up, and this is happening to us now in 3D Coat here, you can mess up the geometry so badly in an object that the only fix is voxelization. So that's kind of where we're approaching now, is we're going to have to revoxelize it to fix this because the tools can't deal with uh, can't deal with how messed up some of this internal geometry is. So when you find yourself in this place where you're like, the smooth tool is not doing what I expect, it's because the internal geometry has become too compromised, and I just messed up the I there, too compromised. So that's like although in this case here it's working, and I think the tools in 3D Code are actually really pretty amazing, so that generally doesn't happen to you. Um, but when you have that problem, that's the solution is you have to revoxelize. Because there's really nothing else that can clean up the geometry in the same way. Because effectively, when you take a surface and revoxelize it, what you're doing is you're saying, hey, start from scratch and fill it with sand again. Like this here, I don't know that I'm going to be able to fix that. Um, I doubt this is going to fix it. I bet you that when I go back to smooth this, I'm just going to end up with those holes again. Yeah, and that's ultimately the problem. Is there's no because this isn't real clay, it's a whole bunch of really magical math going on. Um, it's only can do so much to really clean up these problems. Maybe flatten will fix it, but I doubt it. Yeah, so you can see even that's not going to do it. Um, so the solution at this point for this is to revoxelize. Maybe that did it. Um, maybe I've never tried their Mesh Doctor tool. I don't know what that does. Let's see what happens. Clean clay, reconstruct. That might actually do what I want. I have never used these tools for this purpose before, but it looks like it's actually doing the thing I want to do. Wow, I think I found my new favorite tool here. Now let's see what happens when we go back to smooth. Yes, look at that. So apparently that like just redid the surface there in a way that we wanted, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay, now let's save this. I guess I'll, mesh doctor the crap out of this. Clean clay. Let's see what happens. It's not perfect, but it did do what I wanted. And let's see if we can reconstruct that. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, reconstruct. I think I'm making the mistake of clicking the wrong tool there every time. All right, apply. That cleaned up that. Let's see if there's any other areas that I've got to do. If you hold down Alt when you're using the tool that involves the line, it allows you to move. I probably should, with Pandafold, I probably should spend some time figuring out what all the 3D editors use when they want you to move. I really need to implement different like view manipulation or camera manipulation tools so that you get different capabilities. Like you can say, I want it to work like Blender, or I want it to work like 3D Coat. I generally make it work like OpenSCAD, which probably only I use. That is actually the 3D tool I use the most is OpenSCAD. All right, so now let's see if we can voxelize this. I would like to believe, did that actually work? Yes, that is what I wanted. So what we got is we got the outside surface. We're at 1x resolution. So we're still at 1.5 million triangles. Let's see if we can go down a little bit more. Just to see resample. All right, so this is fantastic. This is where we wanted to get to. Okay, so that has to be cleaned up there. Let's go and go back to our original surface there. And I wanted to leave the hinge here so that we could see where the lower jaw needs to align. But let's see if we can clean up inside that area there. Yeah, it's so thin. We're going to try our reconstruction trick here again. It's kind of weird that this leaves, that is not the tool I wanted, reconstruction. It's kind of weird it leaves the brush marker on when you're using the reconstruction tool. I don't know that that did anything that I wanted, but let's build that up a little bit. It doesn't need to be perfect. I just want to not have it come through the sides. Oh, that really screwed everything up, didn't it? All right. Build up, fill, flatten, draw. Let's see what happens if I draw in there. Oh, it is very unhappy about that. I wonder if that is because the geometry is frozen. I think it's possible when I use the freeze. Yep, that's what happened. When I use the, so one thing I wish that 3D Coat did differently is for selection of like faces, they use the same notion as hiding to figure out what you're going to work on as like some sort of optimization. And it's not great because it causes you to sometimes end up hiding stuff you didn't want to hide. Build up. All right, I guess we'll try smooth on this and see if we get lucky there. Flatten, I bet, will do this. No. Okay, we're in a very special place. What happens if I do fill on the outside? Will you fill at least that little area in? Yes, you do that. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our reconstruction tool, which is now one of my favorite new tools. Am I not on reconstruction? Clear selection. that didn't do what I wanted. Let's see if fill holes does. Nope. Okay. Clean clay. Oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. All right. So now, I wonder if I use clean clay in here. It does something. I don't know that it's doing what I want. This is all I wanted. This is it. Okay. So I think I had to use the clean clay tool there. Okay. So now when I go to voxelize that, I should not get that hole there. All right. So now, let's save this. Let's try voxelizing you at a low number. And again, my goal is to not have so many. Um, this looks good. Okay. What is that wireframe? It's still a lot. Let's see if we can go even lower. We were at 500 something thousand. Let's go 384. Let's see what happens. I'm hitting W to turn on and off the wireframe. This is fantastic. So this has kept our shape, and it's allowed us to avoid a whole bunch of problems. So now we're going to fill the inside of this shape entirely, so we even have less geometry. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to fill the inside of this shape, which is going to require some trickery using polygons. Let's cancel. That's not what I wanted. I wanted polygons. Where are my polygons? Primitives, not polygons. Okay, so we're going to scale this down here. And what we're going to do is make this so that we can cut it off. It will become much more apparent what I'm doing in a few moments here. But let's do it like this to start. So I'm going to use both subtraction and the cutoff tool to make a mouth shape for the inside of this. So let's bring you up just a little bit here. Okay. So now I should be able to just get one plane for the mouth. All right, so we're going to add that. And now what we're going to do is do the same thing for the back of the head. Um, if you're following along, you should wait until you see what I'm going to do to kind of follow how I'm going to do this. All right, so now I've created these, and you notice that I have this area here that's between them. That is very explicit. I am trying not to let these shapes go outside of this head shape, and that will become really apparent in a moment why. So now I can, let me increase the resolution of this. If I cut it with too low of a resolution, I think what will happen is I won't be able to then disconnect it. So now we're going to take this and we're going to copy and subtract from volume 135. So now when I turn this off, we should get these nice two shapes that we can just cleanly separate. Yes. Okay, so 3D Coat has this amazing ability to separate shapes. But to do that, I have to convert it to surface. And then separate disconnected parts. Bam. Okay, so now which one is this is the one we care about. So we're going to copy and merge that into here. We're going to save this. Anytime I do Boolean operations with 3D Coat, this is the area it seems to crash the most with. So I tried to avoid that. I really don't need 2 million polygons to merge this. Done. Okay, copy and merge with. Done. All right, so now, oh, I screwed something up. I used the wrong shape. All right, so let's figure out which one we actually want. You don't do anything. That's the one we want. This is the one we don't care about. Voxel. I don't need 1 million voxels. Let's turn you down. Now copy and merge with. All right, so now we have the basics of that interior filled shape. Now we're going to do the eyes. So I'm going to save, since I have now gotten to this point, I can just delete this whole tree. All right, so now to do the eyes. Yeah, so we're going to look at this from the side. And what we're going to do is we're going to add another polygon primitive, um, primitive here. And we're going to draw something, put something that would enclose the eye shape here. Kind of line that up in the center, scale it up. I don't want it to exceed the nose bridge, but I do want to make sure it's well outside of the eyes. And I want to kind of make sure that it exceeds this. Okay, so now I've selected this layer and we're going to add that there. I'm going to go back to my perfect orthographic side view and we're going to use the curves tool again to cut out that eye shape. That is not the curves tool. Cut off. Here we go. Curves. Activate curves editor. So now what we're going to do is cut this off. And what we're going to do is just draw a curve slightly outside of the eye so that we have some extra shapes there. So that we have like some extra definition on the inside of the head. And now I'm going to turn back the shape I drew. Okay, so this was not big enough for that. So let's go to our transform tool. And where did our transform tool go? Am I not? No, that's not what I wanted. All right. All right. Let's see here. I guess I can't have the curves and the transforms tool on at the same time. I don't know why. So what we're going to do is clear this, which is one of these will clear this shape. And we're just going to add a new primitive there. And we're going to make it fat enough that it would definitely get cut by our line, but not caught in the there. And we're going to apply that. Now we're going to go back to our cutoff tool here. And did I lose my curve? No. Okay, let me delete that curve. I don't know what it is. All right, so now I have this curve here, and now I'm just going to apply that, and it's going to cut anything inside that curve. So now I'm going to convert that into a surface, and then I'm going to separate that. That did not work. Okay, so that did not work. Yes, okay. So, but why didn't that work? Let's turn off looking at the top of this. Oh, I didn't subtract the head base from it. Okay. Sure, keep that. Copy and subtract from. All right, so now let's turn you off. Now I should be able to separate you guys. Yes, awesome. Okay, so now we're going to convert that back and we're going to separate it. Okay, so it gave us a bunch of shapes. I could tell it to delete the small shapes, but instead I'm just going to leave them there and delete them later. So turn down the voxel count on that. Merge with, boom. All right, so now if I turn you on, back on again, you have that shape inside the eyes filled. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm just going to delete this subtree, or delete this whole tree there. I am going to save my work. And now we're just down to the nose. Fantastic. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing for the nose here. We are going to go hit 8, go into the perfect side, or perfect orthographic, I shouldn't say perfect, it's the orthographic side view, which will allow us to do the cutting. And this whole thing needs to be shrunk a bit. so that we can pull this off. I'm gonna roll with that. So let's create a new sculpt tree volume or sculpt tree item there. Let's hide this. Let's delete that curve. We don't need it anymore. All right. So now, back to my cutoff tool. I want my curves menu. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw outside the nostril. So this way we're leaving that really defined nostril so that we can pattern it. And I need to turn back on the visibility of this. When items are invisible in 3D Coat, you cannot manipulate them. Now we're going to copy and subtract that. Now what we should have is two objects that we can easily separate. Yes, the geometry is on the inside is a little messy, but it doesn't matter. So we're going to convert that to surface, then we're going to separate it. Okay, so now this is where it's complaining about the small parts. So I undid that. We're going to just tell it to delete pieces that are kind of small. All right, so now we got that shape. This is the one, I think, yes. We're going to voxelize that. We're going to leave it at 1,000,000 for the moment. Copy and merge with. I'm going to save because I'm about to do a copy or Boolean operation. And now we have this shape. Okay, it ain't perfect, but this is getting us where we want to be for patterning. Okay, so now if we were to look at this, it is not in a great place, and I will show you why. Let me delete this curve here because it'll just be distracting. All right, so if we voxel slice this, you will see that it is not that perfect shape that we wanted on the inside, right? It's like, I don't know why I'm getting measurement tools and voxel tools. I feel like this is just a bug from 3D Coat. But you'll see that shape it's got a lot of internal voids. So if we just went ahead and we tried to decimate this, what we would end up with is all this geometry that now represents the inside shape. So I'm going to save now, and I'm going to tell 3D Coat to fill voids. And let's see if that fixed our voxel slicing problem here. It did not. Close invisible hulls. That did not do that either. Am I insane? Apparently so. Maybe I can't use this tool at the same time. Yes, okay, so that was the problem. The tool didn't update when I filled it. Okay, so now from a geometry perspective, this is way easier to deal with. There's just not as much complex geometry. So now we're at a point where we can do kind of the same thing on the mouth as well. I am not going to do that as part of this video. So I'm going to skip ahead to decimating the mesh in the next video. I'll do the mouth offline and we'll pick it up there.